Ferrero is an Italian company through and through. Nutella, its most famous product in the entire world, hasn't changed its basic identity in decades. And yet in America right now, at this very moment, Ferrero is quietly changing the flavor of that same jar, changing what actually goes into it, and even changing which country some of those ingredients come from in the first place. Not a knockoff, and not a regional imitation made by someone else entirely under a license agreement somewhere. The actual company itself, doing it on purpose to its own single most recognizable product on the entire earth. That's strange enough to sit with for a second, really, before asking the one obvious question it naturally raises. Let's get into it right here on Simple Things Revealed. Buying brands, not just selling them. Walk into almost any American grocery store and you'll find Ferrero everywhere without necessarily even knowing it. Baby Ruth, Butterfinger, Nutella, Kinder, Tic Tac. Ferrero owns all of it, and the company didn't get there just by shipping Italian chocolate across the ocean and hoping it eventually caught on with shoppers. It bought its way in instead, acquiring beloved American brands one by one and running them itself, while reworking its own flagship products for American shelves at the same time. That's a genuinely different approach altogether from most competitors. Most companies either export the exact same product everywhere unchanged, or build something entirely new from scratch for each market. Ferrero does neither of those things. It buys what Americans already love, and it quietly rebuilds what it brought over from home. A jar of bread spread born from scarcity. It did not begin with America at all, not even close. It began decades earlier in a small pastry shop in northern Italy, long before anyone at Ferrero was thinking about peanut flavors or Chicago test kitchens or any of it. In 1946, a pastry maker named Pietro Ferrero was working quietly away in Alba, a small town in the Piedmont region of northern Italy, right in the middle of a genuine cocoa shortage left behind by the Second World War. Chocolate had become something almost nobody left in the country could actually afford anymore. But Piedmont happened to sit right in hazelnut country, the trees growing there in real, genuine abundance all around, cheap and plentiful in a way cocoa simply wasn't anymore after the Long War. Pietro mixed the two together carefully, stretching a small amount of real chocolate with a much larger amount of ground hazelnut, and created a solid, sliceable loaf wrapped carefully in foil. People cut thin slices of it like butter and spread it onto bread, an ordinary answer to a genuinely hard post-war problem. That original loaf slowly evolved over the years that followed it, growing creamier and easier to spread onto bread with a knife, eventually taking on a catchier name entirely along the way. In April of 1964, the very first jar of what we'd now instantly recognize as Nutella finally rolled off a production line in that same small town somewhere in Piedmont, ready to be shipped out to stores. Decades later, when Ferrero finally turned its full attention seriously toward the American market, it faced a real choice about how to actually get there. Grow slowly there too, the same way Nutella itself had grown across Italy over nearly 2 full decades before it became a household name in its own country. Or skip that long, slow climb entirely by buying a head start instead. In 2017, it acquired Fannie Mae, a Midwestern chocolate brand that had already been part of Chicago holiday traditions for more than a century by that point, a business Americans already trusted deeply long before Ferrero ever touched it at all. More acquisitions followed steadily after that very first one, year after year without pause. Each purchase measured less by what it cost on paper than by how many decades of local trust it brought along with it, ready-made. 5 years to add one ingredient. So how does a company actually go about deciding what to change about a product people have genuinely loved for 60 straight years? Nutella's actual recipe stayed essentially untouched for the better part of 60 years since 1964. Then Ferrero looked closely at American pantries and noticed something quite specific and telling. Roughly 9 out of 10 American households already keep a jar of peanut butter on hand at all times. Peanut as a specific flavor wasn't some foreign idea being carefully introduced to American taste buds for the very first time. It was already sitting right there, familiar, in almost every single kitchen across the entire country already. That one simple observation became the actual starting point for the company's first new Nutella flavor in 6 full decades. Getting it right, actually genuinely right, took 5 full years of steady work. Ferrero built an entirely dedicated, brand new innovation lab in downtown Chicago for the project, staffed partly with people who'd previously worked in Michelin-starred kitchens before joining the company, and spent that entire stretch of time testing recipes, adjusting sweetness levels, and running unlabeled taste tests until the balance between peanut and hazelnut actually felt right, rather than simply different from the original. The company eventually invested $75 million building an entirely dedicated production line just for this one single flavor. When it finally launched, that line began running 300 jars a minute around the clock, day and night, filling, sealing, and labeling faster than a person standing there could really even watch happen in real time. Within just a few months, more than 7.5 million jars had already shipped out to stores across the country. To keep that line running reliably without interruption, Ferrero sources its peanuts directly from American farms, mostly in Georgia, rather than importing them from overseas and risking a costly delay somewhere along the way. A 5-year process, in other words, aimed very carefully at changing exactly one single thing about a jar that had otherwise stayed almost completely unchanged since 1964. Not a formula and not a downgrade. It's tempting to imagine Ferrero quietly working from some fixed rulebook labeled American Taste, a formula applied consistently and mechanically across every single product it sells. That's not really how it actually works. Inside the company's own tasting sessions, adjustments happen one small increment at a time based on real feedback rather than any established rule written down somewhere. A texture that reads as chalky to one regional testing group might register as perfectly normal to another, and a coating deemed too glossy in one city can pass without a single comment 3 states over. That's closer to careful, ongoing listening, session after session, than to following any fixed formula written down somewhere at all. It's also easy to assume that changing a product for a new country automatically means quietly lowering its standards somewhere along the way. Ferrero's own hazelnut sourcing actually argues the exact opposite point entirely. Most of the world's hazelnuts, including a large share Ferrero uses globally across its entire product lineup every year, come from Turkey, where reports of child labor in the harvest have drawn genuine, serious scrutiny in recent years. In Oregon's Willamette Valley, by clear contrast, Ferrero now sources hazelnuts it can trace back to the individual farm with complete confidence and full documentation. Localizing supply wasn't some kind of shortcut here at all. In at least this one specific case, it was actually the more careful, better documented choice available to the company, not a compromise made purely to save money or time along the way. Where the changes actually happen. Late one evening, a packaging designer at Ferrero's Chicago office argues over a single word on a draft label with a colleague from the Italian legal team on a video call, the two of them going back and forth on a claim that reads as ordinary marketing language in Turin, but would trigger a completely different set of disclosure rules the moment it crosses into an American supermarket aisle. On a humid Tuesday afternoon, a quality auditor pulls a random case off a delivery truck outside a Midwest grocery distribution center, cutting open a single jar to check the seal integrity against a checklist that has nothing to do with taste at all, since a batch failing on packaging alone still gets pulled before it ever reaches a shelf, regardless of how the product inside actually tastes. Back in the office that same week, a supply chain compliance officer reviews farm-level paperwork from a supplier overseas against a stack of documents from a very different kind of domestic supplier, cross-checking labor certifications line by line before either shipment gets cleared to enter the same production run months later that year. Every Tuesday morning during the fall, a regional manager overseeing several Fannie Mae locations forecasts how many extra seasonal staff each individual store will actually need for the coming holiday rush. Working from decades of local sales data the brand had already built up long before anyone back in Turin ever saw a single one of those numbers cross a desk. What stays the same, what doesn't? Making a product truly global was never really about making it identical everywhere it goes, shelf for shelf. Ferrero's actual skill in America has been figuring out precisely what people already loved about the original, and treating that particular part as untouchable. The chocolate stayed the chocolate. The hazelnut stayed the hazelnut. But sweetness levels shifted slightly, one careful adjustment at a time. A peanut flavor finally arrived after decades of nothing changing in that jar. Entire supply chains quietly moved from one continent to another. None of that happened by accident, and none of it happened everywhere at once. Each change answered one specific question about one specific product, decided carefully rather than simply assumed from the outset. That's a considerably harder skill in practice than just shipping the same box to a new country and hoping it sells well there. If this changed the way you look at a jar of Nutella the next time you see one sitting on a shelf somewhere, let us know in the comments below what you want us to explore next in a future video. We might make it our next episode. Thanks for watching. History often hides in the smallest details.